Chapter 1853, Ink-Stained Clouds. Deng Shintong and Gao Changkong tried every way to kill each other, but because they were in a sudden encounter and were on an unfamiliar battlefield. So in the end, this simplest and purest way is still used to decide who can advance to the next round. The sound of swords clashing against each other and metal impacting resounded throughout the battlefield. After being injected with the drug, Deng Shintong's strength was more than doubled, and he quickly gained the upper hand in the collision with Deng Shintong. However, this strength was not enough to quickly defeat Gao Changkong's defense. The speed of the people is getting faster and faster, and the edge of the sword is becoming more and more dangerous. Death is just a matter of millimeters. If you fail to block the opponent's sword by accident, you may get your head chopped off. Puff, puff. The sound of swords cutting through flesh and blood continued to ring out, and before dawn, Deng Shintong burned himself to ashes. He had to race against time to kill Gao Changkong, so his fighting style became more and more violent, and he even took an unconventional approach in the end, almost giving up on defense and focusing on offense. What we want is not to advance to the next round. Just want to defeat Gao Changkong. The injuries on both of them continued to increase. Deng Shintong's sword pierced Gao Changkong's chest, and he paid the price of an arm for it, leaving the sleeve on the other side empty. Went completely crazy. The drugs made forget the pain, and he was left with only crazy killing thoughts. Gao Changkong was infected by Deng Shintong's madness, but he laughed loudly and was not afraid at all. There's no difference between the swords of the common people and the swords of the nobles. When we fought to the death, you fought like a prodigy, much better than before. At this moment, Gao Changkong has realized a serious problem. Cannot advance to the next round. The test of the god-level enlightenment is a kind of screening, eliminating those who are unqualified. The person who finally wins must be an extraordinary person who is one in a billion. But now, he was about to burn himself out in the battle with Deng Shintong. Even if the person who wins in the end it is unlikely that he will be able to pass the next round of trials. So at this time, simply gave up all distractions and concentrated on fighting Deng Shintong. Blood was splattering. It turned out that Deng Shintong's sword was so sharp and not just a useless piece of jewelry. When dawn came, there was almost no intact part on the two men's bodies. Mottled flesh and blood rolled around, and their bodies were a bloody mess. Deng Shintong's sword pierced Gao Changkong's lower abdomen, and Gao Changkong's left hand crushed Deng Shintong's throat. Fighting with one's life on the line is inherently so brutal, and perhaps a mutual destruction ending is the most natural state of affairs. In the battle between Gao Changkong and Deng Shintong, no one survived and both of them were eliminated. The two people turned into light at the same time and were teleported to another world. It only took a moment for the people to recover from their frenzied fighting state. The abilities of the god-level Ming are amazing. The dead can be resurrected in this world, and even the irreversible injuries suffered by the body can be reversed. Deng Shintong and Gao Changkong looked at each other. Gao Changkong's expression was quite meaningful. He looked at the location of the disappearing light gate and gave Deng Shintong a smile. After all, neither you nor I are the chosen ones. But the outcome between you and me has not yet been decided. Deng Shintong stared at Gao Changkong and spoke slowly. Gao Changkong took a few steps back, then walked in another direction and waved at him. Let's save it for next time. The next time we meet, it might be in Blizzard cities. Deng Shintong's eyes became profound. I couldn't help but think of Gao Changkong's words again. I can't see the bright future, and I can't finish the winding road. Gao Changkong will never forget the hatred, because it is the power of hatred that has supported him through all the hardships to where he is today. So one day when the enemy is at the gate, there will inevitably be a battle in Blizzard City. Gao Changkong was asking Deng Shintong, will you choose to cooperate with me or be my enemy? Deng Shintong did not give Gao Changkong an answer, because it's the same as not saying anything now. And the Deng family behind will be responsible for the Deng family's century-old glory for all their actions. When that time comes, weighing the pros and cons is the best choice for an excellent successor. The earth is burning, and the hot magma is flowing on the ground. Ollie kissed the silver cross hanging on his chest and prayed devoutly. Not far away, Indra's body was burned up inch by the holy fire. Looking at Emperor Shirtian's corpse turned into dust, his eyes couldn't help but become solemn. This battle is the most difficult one I have ever encountered. Perhaps before this, he had never fought with top warriors in a situation where someone had to die. Moreover, Indra is too difficult to deal with. All of S offensive means were anticipated by Emperor Shirtian, and any attack seemed to be invisible in front of Emperor Shirtian. It took a whole week of extreme fighting with Emperor Shirtian, and he finally killed Emperor Shirtian with S eternal flame. God bless you. Ollie murmured to himself, and then he turned into a stream of light and left the battlefield. The duel between Yang Xinshin and Newton can be said to be one of the fastest endings among all the battles. This battle may be second only to the one where Chang Pei killed Bailey Chongqing instantly. Newton was very confident in his intelligence, so he had a chess match with Yang Xinshin. However, Yang Xinshin won 2 games in a row, ending this ridiculous duel. You lose. The black queen in Yang Xinshin's hand ate Newton's white king. The chess piece was held in her hand with 2 fingers, and then a cold voice came into Newton's ears. Newton's cold, robotic face was filled with confusion. No, it shouldn't be like this. Raised his head and looked at Yang Xinshin. There is no way I can lose to you so easily. No matter how smart you are, it shouldn't be like this. As members of the Menso Association and world-class scientific talents, Newton believes he is no less than Yang Xinshin. Even if we lose, we won't lose so badly. Wanna know why? Yang Xinshin looked at Newton quietly. Newton nodded. You owe me one. Yang Xinshin said lightly, and Newton did not object. I'm not willing to lose like this. Yang Xinshin explained. The reason is very simple, superpowers. Or we can explain it in another way, that is, you and I evolved in different directions. Newton nodded and said approvingly, yes, the so-called superpowers are actually the manifestation of the beginning of species evolution. By obtaining the energy of the outer world, some species in the species group will undergo species-specific changes. Every inhuman's mutation is different. This is the choice of genes. My evolutionary path is also different from yours. At this point, he seemed to understand something. Is your path of evolution the brain? Yang Xinshin nodded. I hate low-level fighting methods. The ferocious, fearless fighting style is not elegant at all. If it were me, I would use advanced methods even if I wanted to kill the enemy. The biggest difference between high-level creatures and low-level creatures is the brain, whether or not they know how to use tools. Of course, strategy is also a kind of tool. She pointed to her brain and said, even for me, using my abilities requires extremely complex calculations like a supercomputer. This is why only Yang Xinshin can use the extremely complex rule-based ability, Fallen Puppet. Arrows of different abilities, especially the Trojan horse implant, require extremely complex calculations during combat. Newton is different. Although his ability also tends to be rule-based, it is fundamentally different from Yang Xinshin's. Yang Xinshin is deliberately setting difficult problems for herself to challenge her limits and please herself. Newton, on the other hand, reduced the difficulty of his calculations by simplifying difficult problems. And when the two of them sat in front of the chessboard, this gap was clearly reflected. So that's how it is. Newton let out a long breath. I am convinced of my defeat this time. I shouldn't have agreed to the bet proposed by the other party before I had a clear judgment of the strengths and weaknesses of my own abilities and those of my opponent. I know you will definitely choose a confrontation method that is beneficial to you. But I am arrogant after all. Newton looked at Yang Xinshin. Next time I won't make the same mistake again. Yang Xinshin did not respond, but just raised her right hand towards Newton. Newton frowned and said, there's no need for an extra step of suicide, right? Manager, I choose to give up. Soon, I got a response from the manager. Good. Newton was directly teleported out of this space. After Newton left, the manager's voice appeared in Yang Xinshin's ears. You have passed this trial and are ready to move on to the next trial site. Yang Xinxin suddenly raised her head, looked in the direction of the voice, and asked, "Wait a minute." The manager's voice came coldly. "Is that all?" Yang Xinxin asked calmly. "What do you mean? If you have any demands, you can tell me," the manager said. Yang Xinxin said, "We have passed each level, but there is no reward?" This question stumped the manager. After a while, in another space, Zhang Yi also raised a similar question. Of course they would ask this question, because Zhang Yi once told a few of his closest people that the manager had given him a reward. The manager responded to Yang Xinxin, "Reward? Well, that kind of thing doesn't matter. As long as you can make it to the end, you will get the most valuable treasure in the world." Yang Xinxin said, "But cannot be sure that she can make it to the end. Because if there is only one person after the screening, we'll leave this spot to ask Brother Zhang Yi. As a great god-level civilization manager, anything you give us will be an extremely valuable reward." The manager didn't think about the reward in Yang Xinxin's words from the beginning. Humans drop a piece of candy, which falls to the ground and is discovered by ants. Soon after, a huge ant colony can be formed. But humans may not have the mind to deliberately do such things. For the manager, she feels that compared to the final reward, everything else is child's play and naturally unnecessary. Yang Xinxin said, "But it is very important to us. We obey your will and participate in the trial. If we can get a little reward from you, it will allow us to enjoy eternal life." The manager thought for a while and then laughed. "It's like humans looking at ants begging for sugar grains. So, what kind of reward do you want?" Yang Xinxin said boldly, "More powerful science and technology, and the thing that people call spirit of sacrifice that can make creatures progress." Unexpectedly, after hearing Yang Xinxin's request, the manager shook his head. "I cannot give you the things you want. This is because the former will interfere with your progress, which is not allowed by the supreme will." Yang Xinxin keenly captured the key points in her words. Supreme will. The manager ignored Yang Xinxin's mumbling and continued, "As for the latter, which is what you call the spirit of sacrifice, I can't give it to you." Yang Xinxin asked curiously, "Why is that?" "To you, it shouldn't be a particularly rare thing." The manager said, "Yes, it is not rare for us. It can even be said that we have the highest quality spirit of sacrifice on this planet. However, that thing cannot be given to others." Yang Xinxin frowned at first, but then seemed to guess something. "Trialist, keep going. If you can make it to the end, you will have the opportunity to learn the answers to all the questions in this world." Outside the world of Light Gate, on the battlefield of the Chernobyl ruins, a large number of alien soldiers were fully armed and on guard around. Not only soldiers from Fremons gathered here, but troops from other countries also came. Because this discovery was so shocking to the world, the emergence of the god-level civilization behind the Light Gate shattered everyone's understanding of the entire world. Among these people were the alien troops from Huaxi State. All 6 regions sent people here just to get information about the first one. However, only 2 Epsilon-level mutants appeared. There was no one to be sent from Shengjing District, and because of the warning from the mysterious creature under the Locking Dragon Well, they did not dare to approach this area. Therefore, only the Northwest region sent Qiyu Shaolai over, and the person who came from the Jiangnan region, needless to say, was Nuba Zhuyu. Zhuyu was relieved when he knew Gao Chongkong had entered the world of Light Gate, and he allowed Zhuyu to come to Chernobyl. He was afraid that he would miss this opportunity. With so many aliens gathered here, if a large-scale battle occurred, Zhuyu would have the opportunity to obtain the essence of a large number of strong people and directly plunder their energy. Such a large number of aliens gathered aimlessly, because no one knew what would happen to the world after the Light Gate. Zhuyu was accompanied by Lan Xinqing. Although she was very powerful, she was extremely lacking in the basic common sense of being a human being, so she had to have someone accompany her. Lan Xinqing brought Zhuyu and came to Deng Shintong and others with a smile. "Mr. Deng, what's the situation inside?" When he saw Lan Xinqing and Zhuyu, a strange smile appeared on Deng Shintong's face. "If you wanted to come, why didn't you come before?" Lan Xinqing said with a smile, "Isn't it because Lord Hundun doesn't allow it? Besides, Neither of you is in the Jiangnan region, so someone has to guard it. As he spoke, his eyes drifted off into the distance. Since he was here, he naturally discovered Gao Changkong's place. The words were self-explanatory. Zhu dared to let Zhu come only after confirming that Gao Changkong could not take advantage of the opportunity to launch a sneak attack on the Jiangnan region. Deng Shintong said calmly, "It is a very magical world inside. It is hard to explain it to you in a few words. But Han Dun and the others are still inside. If you want to know the specific situation, you should wait until they come out." Lan Xinqing frowned slightly. What kind of world is inside? Deng Shintong's eyes were filled with reminiscence, and then he shook his head. It's hard to say. It's like a primitive man entering modern society. Everything I've experienced in the world behind the light gate has exceeded my common sense, so I can't explain it to you. After hearing this, Lan Xinqing became even more curious and wanted to hear more. But suddenly, a deafening sound came from the sky.
Boom.
Suddenly, there was a deafening thunder in the sky, and the whole sky became gloomy. The country of Fremons became dim, as if all the light was about to disappear. Everyone looked up and saw the dark clouds in the sky, which looked like ink paintings, piling up layer upon layer and gathering in the boundless sky. It feels like something big is going to happen. A solemn look appeared on Deng Shintong's face. He looked in the direction where the light gate had appeared before and felt uneasy for no reason. But he was unwilling to leave at this time because Zhang Yi and the others had not come out yet. He was still waiting for the end of this trial. The great god-level civilization is a godlike existence to humans. What kind of person will be chosen through their trials, and what kind of things will they inherit? The mystery lingers on everyone's mind, making them eagerly hope to get the answer. Because that answer may change the whole world. Boom! There was a roar in the sky. This time it was the familiar sound of a fighter plane's engine. Forces from various countries arrived one after another, and many new Ypsilons appeared on the battlefield. On the Vatican side, a new team of Knights Templar arrived, led by a gray-haired old man who was as strong as a bear. In Colombia, fighter planes were landing, and through the window one could vaguely see an old man with a hedgehog head and a scientist-like figure holding a bottle of wine in his arms, staring coldly at everything at the place where the light gate disappeared. This scene seemed even bigger than the previous decisive battle. The importance of the heritage left behind by the god-level civilization is unimaginable. If their people cannot pass the trial, there will always be a moment when those who pass the trial come out. Now that we have control of the battlefield, it is not impossible to snatch things away by making careful plans. The atmosphere in Chernobyl is depressing and tense. Zhou Qi was eliminated in her first duel. At this time, she was with Uncle Yu, Fatty Sue, and others. Seeing the tense situation where the air was almost stagnant, I couldn't help but feel worried. Originally, we were most worried about the mechanical civilization. But now, the mechanical civilization is not the most dangerous opponent. I am a little afraid that the alien forces of various countries will fight each other for the inheritance of the great god-level civilization. Mu Yan, who had been silent all this time, spoke up at this moment and said softly to everyone, "The only thing we can do now is to wait here for Zhang Yi's return. There is no point in being nervous. I believe that as long as he can reach the final level and get the final reward, he will find a way to take us away from here." Thinking of Zhang Yi, everyone felt relieved. If there is anyone who can leave safely in front of the strongest people in the world, I am afraid that only Zhang Yi can do it in the human world. Thick black smoke billowed from the crater, volcanic ash flew in all directions, and the sky was dyed red by the magma. Liang Yu went to the top of the volcano and fought against her opponent, Loki. Both of them are strong-type mutants. Although Liang Yu's ability index is not as good as Loki's, the ability gap between them is eliminated here. Loki, Bentley Thomas didn't say a word to Liang Yu from beginning to end. The first moment she appeared on the battlefield, she rushed towards Liang Yu holding her exclusive weapon, Bloody Iron Cross Battle Axe. The strong type of mutants are the simplest and purest type among all the mutant systems because their fighting method is to use their physiques that have been trained to the extreme to fight. Perhaps some people would think that the strong system is too single energy and therefore weak. But the opposite is true. Simple energy is the purest. They have life forces comparable to those of monsters, are extremely difficult to kill, and can adapt to various harsh environments with their strong bodies. The blood-red iron cross battle axe burst into dazzling light, and Belit crossed the entire crater and leaped towards Liang Yu. Liang Yu held his breath and concentrated, holding Long Ming in his right hand. The blood-red iron cross battle axe chopped towards her head, and the light of supernatural power burst out from the battle axe. Before the battle axe fell, the energy that escaped had already caused the rocks under Liang Yu's feet to begin to collapse. Liang Yu stared at the enemy in front of him. She lowered her body and began to gather strength to attack. The moment Belit got close to her, she suddenly drew her sword with her right hand. Clang! A crisp sound resounded through the sky, and black energy gushed out like a flood as the knife was pulled out. The black blade light collided with the blood-red light of the blood-red iron cross battle axe. The supernatural power collided and dissipated, and the blade went straight towards Belit. The battle axe chopped towards Liang Yu's head, but the Tang Dao did not choose to collide with the battle axe directly, but cleverly avoided it. The blade scratched the blunt side of the battle axe, sparks flew, and then chopped towards Belit's head along the axe handle. Boom! The battle axe chopped on the crater, directly splitting a huge gap in the mountain. The powerful energy made the volcanic eruption more violent, and bright red magma flowed out, with huge heat waves. Belit dodged Liang Yu's sword attack, but a strand of hair was cut off from her head and then quickly burned to ashes by the scorching heat.